Well, hello there, my friend. Welcome back. Quick reminder before we get going, this is a true crime channel. We cut through the fluff, we cut through the sensationalism, but we do talk about adult things. So this is an adults only channel. If you're a kiddo, we love you, but it's time for you to go. All right? Tonight we are talking about, of all things, the case that started me live streaming on YouTube in the first place, and that is the case of Gabby Petito. This case, guys, this one hit me hard I had already started YouTube and I was doing produced, planned videos and then uploading them to YouTube. And then as this case kind of was breaking, I started live streaming, and it was a terrific experience. And for some reason, I stopped as soon as Brian Laundrie's body was found. I stopped and went back to producing and writing and everything. And I should have never stopped. I should have kept at it because it's something that I really love to do, and I love the feeling of making a difference. And I titled this video Our Help in Solving Gabby Petito's Murder. I want to clarify, I did not help. Like, Gavin Fish did not help, I don't think. I was one of many thousands, maybe tens of thousands of content creators that kept this in the public, and I felt good about it because Gabby Petito's parents, Joe and Tara Petito and Nicole and Jim Schmidt, were asking us to do that. And unfortunately, it ended sadly. I mean, Gabby Petito's life was lost, authorities believe, on August 27th of 2021. And then Brian Laundrie died on October 20th, they think, of 2021. Of a self-inflicted, in a self-inflicted manner, let's say. Now, as you guys know, there has been just recently, I mean, it's in the top 10 on Netflix right now, it just recently released, is a docu-series that the family of Gabby Petito did contribute to, they were involved in, but I understand that they didn't have editorial control over it or anything like that. I mean, they've talked about that since the documentary came out, some of the things that they wish wouldn't have been in there, people they wish wouldn't have been in there, that sort of stuff. But I want to start with a little poll. This might be the first time I'm doing this. Let's see if it'll work. Let me just start a poll here. Have you seen the doc? Yes or no? I'm going to stick that in the live chat, and I'd love to see your answers to that, okay? So once you see that poll, go ahead and tell me if you've seen it or not. In the meantime, I just want to do a quick little rundown, okay? Gabby Petito is 22 years old. She was I don't want to diminish what it was that she wanted to do. I was about to say wannabe. That is, we all want to be, right? But she was working toward being a vlogger and blogger, living a van life, and she had started a YouTube channel called Nomadic Static, and I think she really only ever got to put one video up on her channel. She grew up on Long Island. She left Long Island to move in with her boyfriend. You can see him in this video, Brian Laundrie. He was a year older than her. His family had relocated down to Florida, and so she had gone down there to live with him, and then from there they were going to launch this van life thing. Obviously, I'm cutting out all the details. Hopefully you have seen the docu-series. Let's see what you guys are saying here. Yeah, the poll has a hard time telling me what is. So it looks like Uh, 43% of you have seen the Netflix doc. 58% of you so far have not. Okay, so let's go on to the next little one that I have here. Anyway, they start this van life and they are going to go on this many thousands of miles journey from Florida out to the west. You can see them in California and San Francisco. They were in Utah. They were in Wyoming. They were going to all these national parks. Okay. Now, somewhere along the way, things started to go wrong for Brian Laundrie and Gabby Petito. And the Netflix documentary series actually tells us a little information leading into that. From what I saw in the doc, Brian, even before they left, was a coercive, manipulative kind of guy. He wanted to control Gabby. He wanted Gabby to be his. This is what I think based on watching the documentary. And of course, you know, the documentary has an agenda. It won't be perfectly accurate and sensitive to all sides, but that's the way it seemed like to me. Anyway, things got worse on their travel, and I think that it culminated for most of us in this badge cam video from the Moab Police Department where they were pulled over because they were seen with Brian slapping Gabby. But when the police investigated it, they came to the conclusion that Gabby was the primary aggressor. They did not follow the law. They separated them, let them both go, and Gabby was dead about 2 weeks later, 10 days later, something like that. Okay, so there are lots of questions. Had the Moab police arrested one of them, even if it was Gabby, she perhaps would be alive today. But okay, so that is the case. Now, her body was discovered in and around Teton National Park. Okay, I don't have the exact location. It's been so long since I've looked at this case. But you can, by the way, guys, go over to my website, and there's actually a pretty darn good timeline on the website. Yeah, let's see. I can get this right here. Yeah, so this was the Spread Creek dispersed camping area in the Bridger Teton National Forest is basically where it was. So there's tons and tons and tons of information here on the website that you guys can go check out. Okay. All right. There are basically 4 things that I want to talk about tonight that I found, at least it was new to me, that I want to talk to you guys about tonight. Okay. That's basically the whole point here. Well, actually, man, I'm skipping around a lot here, but getting back to our help in solving Gabby Petito's murder, there was an enormous amount of help from YouTubers, TikTokers, and so forth, helping police to narrow down the search area, to figure out the timeline. And so I am like really proud of the true crime community and just the content creator community in general for like listening and saying, "Oh, we've got a missing woman here. Let's try to find her." It was a terrific effort. It ended sadly, but it was a terrific effort. Anyway, okay, so it looks like our poll is kind of coming in at 59% have not seen or 60% have not seen it. 40% have seen it. I'm going to go ahead and end that poll. So thank you for taking part in that. So for some of you, this is going to be new information. For others of you who have seen the Netflix doc, I can't wait to hear what you think about it in the comment section. Be sure to put GF in the comment section. Let's bring up a picture of Gabby while we're talking about this. Okay. The first thing I want to talk about that I learned in the Netflix doc was that Gabby actually sent a text and called an ex-boyfriend. This boyfriend in the final days of her life. Okay, so on August 22nd, and she died on August 17th. On August 22nd, she sent a text message, I think it was through Snapchat, if memory serves, to a kid named Jackson. It didn't say his last name. This is I'm going to call him Mr. Jackson, I guess, who, oh, you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to put on Do Not Disturb. There we go. He described Gabby Petito as his first love. He said that it just didn't work out between the two of them. Because of timing is kind of what he said. But he got a message on August 22nd, and Gabby messaged this to him. It said, "Hi, I'm sure I'm the last person on the planet that you want to hear from." And I guess that turned into a conversation. Gabby told him that she had gotten into an argument with Brian. I remember Jackson saying that he had been following her on social media, knew that she was out doing this van life thing, kind of had mixed feelings about it, in that he was happy for her that she was doing it, but also kind of sad because that was going to be the thing that they did together before they broke up. But anyway, she texted him, said that she said that she had gotten into an argument with Brian, that she wanted to leave him, but wasn't sure how. And then on August 27th, which was the day that investigators believe Gabby Petito died, he missed a call from her. She called him on that day, and he was at work and was unable to take the call. He did say that he believed that Gabby was reaching out for help, that he believed that she was trying to distance herself from Brian, and in that time where she was trying to distance herself, that is when she got killed. Now, we all know that the most dangerous time in the life of a spouse or a significant other who is experiencing DV, which I think was happening with Gabby. If it wasn't physical, it certainly was emotional and mental. But, well, we know it was physical. I mean, there were photos from Gabby's devices that were shown in the documentary where she has like a swollen and black eye. We know things had gotten physical from the 911 call. So what am I saying? It was definitely physical. It was definitely emotional, definitely mental. And it was just so coercive, and it was just a very dangerous, dangerous time if Gabby was trying to leave. So that rang true to me when Jackson was saying that he thought that she was reaching out for help. He suggested maybe that Brian had seen the message or had seen the call that may have escalated things that were going poorly between them, which may have led to her death. Now, that doesn't mean that I believe that it did. I'm just saying that that's the way that he kind of said it in the documentary. He's connecting dots. I said this in last night's live stream, right? He's connecting dots. The dots do exist, but the connections do not, right? He's not to blame for this. The only person to blame for this is the murderer, who is Brian Laundrie, who I mean, I have mixed feelings about it. He took a pretty cowardly way out, but he's gone, so we don't have to worry about him anymore. Okay, the next thing, actually, before I move on to the next topic, let's bring up Gabby here real quick. Let's just see what you guys are saying here. Janet agrees with me. Let's see. Yeah, Mooney says the ex-boyfriend was new to me. Jackson seemed like a great guy. And Autumn Doyle is saying Jackson Huffam is his name. Yeah, he did seem like a good kid, and I mean they were kind of first loves, and they were young, and it didn't quite work out. I mean, I think most of us have experiences like that. I certainly do. Right? Before I found my forever someone, I had lots. There were a few young women that I deeply loved. So yeah, I get that. He did. Oh, I was didn't show you this, but yeah, he did seem like a very, very good guy. Let's see. Phoenix Rising. It's good to see you, Phoenix. I think the Laundries have a lot to feel guilty for. They completely failed Gabby and even Brian. I think they even hung their own daughter and grandkids out to dry to save themselves. Yeah, that's an interesting take. This is a photo of Chris and Roberta Laundrie from the Netflix series. I understand why they acted the way they did. I do not condone the way they acted, but I understand why they did. And we're going to get into this a little bit, so I don't want to really get into this quite yet. We're going to get into it though, Phoenix. It does seem to me though that Brian's, according to the documentary, that Brian's coerciveness was maybe something that was learned from his growing up years. Who knows? I don't want to like just flatly say they did that, but you know, it did seem like that to me. And yeah, Bree is like, yeah, check out the docuseries if you haven't seen it. It's really, really good. Sean B says, Gavin, the Moab police failed Gabby by citing her as the aggressor and making Brian out to be the victim. It was clear as day that she was being abused by Brian, and those cops missed or ignored it. I agree with you, but I also would say that even if they came to the wrong conclusion, had they just followed the law, had they arrested Gabby, that would have like put all the red flags up for her parents. I'm sure her dad or stepdad, her mom, her stepmom, I think one or all or some would have rushed out to help her. They would have discovered what was going on because, you know, for a young person, it's very, very difficult to ask for help. It might even be very difficult for a person like Gabby in that situation to understand that she needed help. And had she been arrested, yeah, it would have been the wrong call for sure. But had she been arrested, man, I think her parents, and remember, she has 4, right? And this might be the healthiest broken relationship I've ever seen. Her father here is Joseph Petito. Her mother here is Nicole Schmidt. And then she has terrific step parents, Jim Schmidt and Tara Petito. So I think they would have rushed to her aid. They would have seen what was going on. They would have given her the help that she needed. And that would have saved her life. That's what I think. Great comment, Sean. TJ, the girl with the big dog. Gavin, I know I'm evil, but I hope this kicked off some suffering for Brian Laundrie's parents. That is what we call schadenfreude. It is not, I would not call it evil. I would call it natural. That is a natural feeling. I try my very best to put off those kinds of feelings. I think the Laundries did do a lot wrong here, 100%. But I do kind of understand why they did it. I'm not condoning what they did. I just understand the incentive structure there. Becca says, the documentary made me so angry. The Laundries, honestly, such disbelief about how they protected their son. Yeah, that's, getting back to TJ's comment, right? Both of your comments are on the same theme. I've thought about this. Say I have sons and daughters. Say one of my sons or daughters calls me and says, Dad, I messed up. I murdered my significant other. The range of emotions that would just go flooding over you as a parent would be, it would be broad, and they would be heavy. And I would have the desire to help my son or daughter there, but I know the best thing for my son or daughter is for them to face the consequences of their actions. Having never been in that situation, maybe I should just shut up. But I would hire a lawyer for sure, but I wouldn't hide my son. I wouldn't conspire, which is what I think they did to cover up Gabby's murder. Sean B says, I've seen the Netflix documentary. It was so hard to watch. I almost could not finish watching it. Yeah, great comments, guys. Harley says, Gavin, I want you to explain more what you do understand about Brian's parents. I will. Okay, we're going to get to it. Royal Order of the Frank, taunting me with your amazing Royal Order. If Gabby had been arrested, it would have given her time to think and talk to police more honestly about what had been happening in general. Yeah, and there are services, there are psychologists and criminal psychiatrists that can help, can honestly help. Like, jail can be a very good thing. So yeah, I think it would have been good for her. And I'm sorry that that didn't happen. And then Robin Bernardi says, ironically, the parents of both parties paid the ultimate price. They both did. Yeah. Oh, so tragic. Okay. Let's go back to the next thing I wanted to talk about. Let me bring up my notes here. Yes. Okay. The second thing that we learned, I don't think I'm going to get everything that we learned in this documentary, but for me, out of the 4 things that I want to share tonight, the second thing is that investigators said that the crime scene was staged. So Brian's note that he left behind kind of told this romantic story about being caught out in the cold and Gabby losing her ability to hike and losing energy, and he was trying to help her and ultimately, for her own good, put her out of her misery. That was the story that he told. What the crime scene told investigators, according to investigators in the documentary, was that Gabby's injuries didn't even closely resemble that story where he's painting himself as a loving partner and just trying to help her by putting her out of her misery. She died by manual strangulation. By the way, I got an email from Brian Bennett. I saw that. I've been in court all day today, so I didn't respond yet. But anyway, she was manually strangled. Investigators believe that she was killed near or inside the van. nowhere near where her body was found in that dry creek bed. It was, I mean, her body was found on a bunch of rocks, right? So that means that Brian would have had to carry her across the creek to try to make it look like she died while they were camping. The investigators, pointed out that there was no tent, there were no sleeping bags, there was no other camping equipment found near her remains. Her remains were just there, just her. And I'm trying to remember when her body was found. I think it was in September, right? So it had been out there for weeks. So I guess what that shows is that maybe kind of what I take from this is that Brian is such a practiced manipulator. We see it in this video. I was going to see if, let me scrub. Yeah. So like in this section of this video, he is manipulating police in a masterful way. He is so good at it. Oh yeah, she's a little crazy is kind of what he was communicating, right? And it appears that that's the way he was in every facet of his life, because when it came to the note that he left behind, it's like he was trying to gaslight us into believing something else, right? He was just a master manipulator. And if he hadn't have taken his own life, maybe he was trying to convince investigators that, like, he was thinking ahead, right? He was planning ahead on what he was going to do in order to cover up his crime. And yeah, it also shows, a real lack of remorse. If you're now August, September, October, so 2 months after the fact, you're out in your Florida nature preserve and you're going to take your own life. If you have no remorse and you're not panicked, you take that time to write your note, put it in a waterproof bag, and do the deed, right? That's, no remorse. And it shows planning. It's terrible. Now, kind of related to this, the third thing that I wanted to bring up is that on August 28th, according to the documentary, Brian Laundrie goes on a hike, and he hikes alone from where they were in the in that, what was that campground called now? Bridger Teton. I'm having a hard time remembering it. For crying out loud, Gavin, what is it called? It is called, go back to my timeline. Let's see. Why can't I find that? Here we are. You guys are like screaming at it. There we go. Spread Creek. So he was in, there we go. The Spread Creek dispersed camping area at Bridger Teton National Forest, right? So he hikes from Spread Creek, the dispersed camping area, all the way up to a place called Coulter Bay Village. While he was doing that, he was taking photos, and he was taking photos of this kind of stuff, like animal carcasses that are decomposing and bleaching in the sun. These were all shared on the documentary. This is from the documentary. So here we have, it looks like a deer skull that is maybe a little newer than this one. We've got an older one, some type of animal. Again, kind of looks like a deer. that has decayed a little bit more. And these are photos that he took as if to kind of document what he believed what was going to happen to Gabby. It makes me wonder, like, what his plan was. This guy was pretty good at, at survival and camping. He's pretty practiced. I don't know what his plan to get away with this was. It really was. But again, it shows that he's like, okay, this is what's going to happen to Gabby. Her body's going to decompose, just going to be bones. Kind of visualizing what would happen to Gabby's remains. Maybe he was finding some like weird, twisted sense of comfort in seeing the decay. It shows to me that, I mean, this wasn't all he took pictures of. He took pictures of scenery and stuff like that, but this was part of it. Again, maybe reinforces that he wasn't panicked at all, that he was acting like nothing happened. Maybe it shows a detachment from reality, going out on a hike, on a beautiful hike the day after he murders Gabby Petito. Calmly walking, documenting nature. He described himself in his notebook as being devastated, but his actions say otherwise, right? I think he was planning his next move. And I have to say that really, really upset me as I was watching the documentary. That whole detachment from the act that he would have had to do. And let's talk about that for a little bit. We'll have Brian Bennett back on. But as I recall Brian's description of strangulation, I think that he said that it only takes about 7 pounds of pressure to lose consciousness. And if you hold that for a couple of minutes, the person is done for. So the violent part of the act probably only took moments. Gabby lost consciousness in moments. I'm sure that she had fear. I'm sure that she had panic. I'm sure she just couldn't understand what was going on. But in those few moments that probably felt like an eternity for her, for Brian, they passed quickly. And then within a couple of minutes, it was done. So it probably wasn't as violent as we all... I mean, it's violent, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't like, I don't know, like in the movies where there's like this real struggle and all that. I don't think that probably is the case. So is it possible in kind of his deranged mind that he's like, well, that wasn't all that bad. We'll just lay Gabby here and we'll go on a hike. I don't know. It's just absolutely, I guess, disturbing. And before we get into the last thing, let's go over to your comments here and let's see what you guys are saying. Let's bring a photo of Gabby back up. Let me refresh this. And Robin Bernardi says, Gavin, but the face-to-face crime of murder is deeply sickening. Sure. Yeah. Let's see, Becca, to note as well, the laundries were asked for comment by Netflix and didn't provide one just in case people weren't aware. Yeah, they did not. They did not. Autumn says, Gavin, he was trying to make an alibi. He was texting Gabby's phone oh yeah, he was texting with Gabby's phone. Yeah, and that was shown in the documentary. Like, he had both phones right next to each other, texting back and forth. He was at the point that he got back in the van, definitely trying to create an alibi. And yeah, as you say there, Autumn, Gabby's phone had no activity until he got back to the van. Michelle M says, Gavin, Brian gaslit Gabby so much that she didn't believe in herself. He totally cut her down for wanting to be a YouTuber. Yeah, that was something in the documentary that that was sad. Okay, here is the deal, guys. And I'm not a van life YouTuber, but in my limited success on YouTube, which is limited, oh my goodness, everybody thinks I'm so successful with 100,000 subscribers. No, this is very limited success, okay? It is so hard. It is so hard to figure out what you want to do and who you want to be and how you want to show that, and learning how to do all the things, all the editing and all the everything. It is very, very hard. It was obvious in the documentary that Gabby was dedicated to doing it, right? She was learning all the skills. She was developing a website. She had started the YouTube channel. She was editing. She was taking lots of photos. She had a drone. She was doing really, really well. And it was obvious in the documentary, going back to your comment, that he was not into it at all. He was not into it. And every time the camera went on him, he got this stupid smile. Hey, show that I'm happy and everything. Guys, that is really hard. And I think that we need to be very careful, each one of us personally, when we see content on YouTube and on the internet that is displaying this, like, nothing is ever wrong. This is the best life ever. This is the most amazing thing ever. We need to just remember that all of that content is carefully created by those YouTubers or other content creators. And Gabby's not the only victim of this, right? She's not the only victim of this. Do you guys remember Alexis Sharkey? She was a girl that was a young woman who was from this area of America. I mean, I've driven through her hometown multiple times. It used to be like a weekly occurrence for me. And down in Texas, kind of displaying to the world that she was just this happy-go-lucky, everything was great kind of influencer on Instagram, and it was everything but great. And same thing happened. Her husband, Tom Sharkey, ended his existence in order to probably, I don't know, he didn't want to face the music. So got to be very careful when we see that stuff. And I don't want to dash anybody's dreams. Van life can be rad. I'm sure it could be cool. I don't want to do it. I did the opposite of van life. Instead of like buying something teeny tiny to fit me and my loved ones in, I bought the most ostentatious, outrageous, giant, enormous, idiotic thing ever because I wanted space, man. That's the other thing. If you're going on the road with somebody in a teeny tiny little space, man, you've got to be sure. And I'm not blaming Gabby here because, like, I think she was also victim to this whole idea that van life could be cool. And the other thing is when I see these photos, these photos that Gabby created are actually, I mean, very well done, but very posed, very posed, very planned, very very purposeful and methodical in what it was that she was trying to communicate to others. So we've got to be very careful about that stuff, guys. Got to be very careful about that stuff. And you're right, man. She was gaslit for sure. And yeah, it's tough. Mooney says the Bones photos were new to me. Sick, yes. Thanks, Sean. Gabby was found on September 19th, 2021, in the dispersed camping area of Spread Creek, lying on her side, wearing her favorite sweater, if I remember hearing correctly. Yeah, she was in the fetal position, is how it was described on the documentary. And thanks for helping me out. Spread Creek. Yes, indeed. Jess says, in my opinion, being a good parent should also mean protecting the world from your children if they're dangerous. If they did the right thing, Brian might still be alive and paying for what he did to Gabby. Yeah, I don't disagree at all. Don't disagree at all. Phoenix Rising says, Gabby is how when I found you. Pretty sure that was your belief at the time that he took her life in the van. Yeah, I did. I believed that he took her life in the van, but I believed that it was probably a gunshot. That's what I thought originally, because Brian was somebody who enjoyed firearms, and he was, I mean, that was brought up in the documentary, kind of teaching her, bringing her into that lifestyle. And like, no judgment on that. I'm a gun owner, and I train on them. I am a user of guns. Um, but that is why I felt like it was probably related to firearms. Um, yeah, thanks for reminding me of that, Phoenix. Let's see. Sean says, I believe Gabby was murdered by Brian on the night of the 27th. I think Brian saw the text messages on Gabby's phone between her and her ex-boyfriend, Jackson, and that's what set him off to murder her. Yeah, and that's pretty much what Jackson said. Um, that that he thought too. Yeah. Okay. Let's see if there's anything else that we want. Retracted messages. Good. Oh yeah, Mia, yes, correct. They said blunt force trauma and manual strangulation. You're right. It wasn't just manual strangulation. Thanks for correcting me on that. Sean B says Brian was an evil individual who didn't treat Gabby right at all, abusing her, gaslighting her, being narcissistic and controlling towards her. If only her ex Jackson could have been there. Yeah, that's um, that's tough. Hey, Jojo Fo Show, welcome. Glad you have joined us. Um, Yeah, Jennifer says, Gavin, Brian was not into her posting on her channel, most likely because he wanted to isolate her and didn't want the documentation. I also, yeah, I mean, and adding to your thought there, it seems like he didn't like to share her with anybody. The documentary talks about a friend that she made in Florida, and how that bothered him. And she got a job at Taco Bell. Gabby got a job at Taco Bell working hard in order to be able to buy the van, save up money and buy the van. And he hated that she was now working. He wanted her to himself. So I think that her posting online to Instagram to YouTube and so forth was it was her from Brian's perspective, it may have been her sharing herself with the world, and he didn't want to share her. That is a great comment, Jennifer. Thank you so much. Yeah, I don't remember the Pinterest. I do know that I remember the artwork that he made that was very dark. Like, he liked dark stuff for sure. Yeah, TJ says Gavin, her stepdad describing how they found her with her hair hanging over her hoodie, just lying there. It killed me. Yeah, that was Jim who described that. Jim actually was the one out of all of them that went out to Wyoming and was on the ground there. Oh my goodness, this family, guys. You know what? I don't know this family. I I think they did everything right in this situation, and what they've been able to accomplish with the Gabby Petito Foundation has also been amazing. These people are, I mean, just they're heroes. They're people that I look up to. Pretty amazing. Okay, let's go back to let's bring Gabby up here. Let me go back to the fourth thing that blew my mind. Okay. In the documentary, it described that on August 28th, while hiking alone after he had left the dispersed camping area and was making that long hike, and remember, there were people that picked him up and took him back. Like, that, it's just crazy what TikTok and YouTube did for this case. Anyway, while he was out on that hike and he was taking the pictures of the bones, Brian made a call. He made a call to his mom, and this is what it showed on Netflix. So actually, it says on the 29th, not on the 28th. Anyway, that he made a call to his mother that lasted 54 minutes. And then followed that with another call that was 36 minutes. Like, he had this long conversation with Roberta, his mom. Okay. Then shortly after that call was done, that is when Chris started making calls to lawyers. And I don't know if this is the actual documentation. It looks like more like something that they created, but apparently that's when Chris started making calls looking for criminal defense attorneys. So this idea that, I mean, I don't think anybody had an idea that Chris and Roberta didn't know what happened. But I think that on this call, Brian explained the whole thing. Now, he may have tried to manipulate his own mother. He may have told her the story of Gabby couldn't make it. She was injured. We were cold. I loved her so much, I put her out of her misery. Maybe he said that. I doubt it. I think he probably came clean to his mom and dad. But the idea that Chris and Roberta Laundrie didn't know what was going on and didn't, this is all my opinion. Okay. This is just my opinion, but I think Chris and Roberta Laundrie knew exactly what happened to Gabby. I think that the first part of what they did in contacting a lawyer is probably something that I would do that for my children. That's something that I would definitely do for my children. What I would not do is endeavor or enable my child to endeavor to cover up the crime. I would, and so that's what I said earlier, that I have some sense of understanding of what they did and why they did it. I just think they made the wrong decisions, right? They, in my opinion, they decided we're going to cover this up. We're going to help him cover it up. We're going to try to get him to be able to get away with it. Instead of, okay, we're going to get you a lawyer. Don't say anything to police, but you need to go to the police. Don't say anything. Maybe go with the lawyer. Here is the lawyer. Go to this lawyer. You are going to go into the police and, whatever from there. Don't endeavor to, in my opinion, what I would do is I would endeavor for you to come clean so that you may pay the price, because there is a price to be paid. And somebody has to pay it, and you're the one that should be paying it. But instead, what they did, it appears, based on, these calls, almost an hour talking to his mom, and then, talking to his dad, or his dad talking to lawyers and so forth. I think that was a real indication that the Laundries knew exactly what was going. Now, let's see. The morning. I just want to go through my notes here real quick. Yeah, calls to a lawyer indicate he was already thinking about legal consequences. Well, his dad was definitely. The Laundries refused to talk to Gabby's parents or the police. Now, again, part of that is the right thing to do. Lawyer up and don't talk to the police. But don't endeavor to cover up a crime. And I think that's what they did. So and I put in my notes that maybe this suggests that Brian's parents may have even helped him plan his next steps. Like, come out here, bring the van back out here, drive back here. You'll come up with a story. Once police come and arrest you, then say nothing, and then when it gets to trial, we'll have a story. Maybe that's what they thought his next steps were going to be. Of course, he ultimately left the house. That was the other thing, man. I didn't put this in my notes, but the whole way that he was able to, supposedly under the nose of the Northport PD, just leave the house that was supposedly under surveillance. That was crazy. Absolutely crazy. All right. Those are the things that I thought of. Let's wrap this up with your comments here. Let me let's bring Gabby up. Beach Fairy says, Gavin, the sister still doesn't talk to her parents, as far as I'm aware, and still claims nothing was said at the camping goodbye meetup. She thinks her parents knew, conspired, and kept her in the dark. I mean, that's the way she was acting at the time. I have no reason not to believe what you're saying there, Beach Fairy. Thanks for that. Bree says, I can't get over the family going camping when Brian came back. Gabby was out there, and they take a family camping trip, and Brian's enjoying time with his nephews. That made me so angry. Yeah. Beach Fairy says, to those saying the Laundries didn't know, as we say in England. That is something that you do say in England, indeed. Glitter is forever. Gavin, I had a very narcissistic, controlling boyfriend. He watched my social media like a hawk, but never posted or replied. I felt it gave me some kind of power or importance that I didn't deserve. Oh, I see. Yeah, the control over you, or the coercion. Sorry that you experienced that. Jeanette saying, Gavin, her being so light and him being so dark, it's a recipe for disaster. Gavin, the orb, don't forget the orb. Yeah, there was a so the family has gotten some flack for this. I don't see why. I mean, none of us get to decide how a person seeks comfort in after the death of their loved one, but they've caught flack for spreading Gabby's ashes out there at the dispersed campground. And they took a photo there, and in the photo there is there's a lens flare. And lens flares occur when there's a light source aiming directly inside the lens. And depending on your lens, it can take multiple forms. They called it an orb, and they thought that it was an indication that Gabby's spirit was there. Now, I have no comment on it or no judgment about it. A lot of people have been negative about that. Whatever makes the family feel better, I applaud them for it, and I'm happy for them. So if that orb was a sign, and they took it as a sign that Gabby was at rest and she was fine, then I am very happy for them. Sugar 2024 says, Gavin, hats off to Gabby's parents for creating Gabby's foundation. Also happy to know extra DV training for law enforcement came out of this tragedy. Yeah. Mellow Yellow, Gavin, I feel so bad for Jackson. It's not his fault, but he must have regret. Indeed, indeed. This is not a good comparison. But I am a person that I have decided I just will not have regrets. I feel like that's a wasted emotion. I also never feel jealousy. I have decided I never feel jealous. It's a wasted emotion. So I've been able to train myself to turn that stuff off. With one exception, not the jealousy thing, but with regret. I, as a 12-year-old kid, 13-year-old kid, when my best friend was dying, he wanted to tell me something. And it was important to him that I hear what he had to say, but I was in such denial that he was going to die that I didn't want to hear it. And it started out as a, hey, when I'm gone, and I went, don't even stop. I stopped him right there. I do not want to hear it. No, Gavin, I want to tell you about this. No, I don't want to hear it, buddy. So, what I've learned over time is that I just have to be able to extend forgiveness and grace to my 13-year-old self. Right? I was 13. 13-year-old kids are not equipped to deal with what I was dealing with. Right? And I make it sound like I was the only one dealing with anything. I was the one dealing with the least amount. His parents, his brothers, his sisters, his grandparents, they were really dealing with it. But anyway, I'm hopeful for Jackson that if he does have those kinds of regrets, that he is able to accept that he did the best that he could, and that that it wasn't his fault. The fault lie there. The fault lies there. I didn't say that very well. Good comment. Thank you so much for that, Mellow Yellow. Robin says, Gavin, everyone grieves differently. Exactly whatever helps them to cope is allowed. I agree. I have nothing to say. Apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Yeah, talking about Brian Laundrie and his parents. That's the way it feels like to me too. Guys, go watch the documentary. Watch the documentary, and it's definitely worth a watch. There's also an interview that the Schmitz did. I wish I had a link for you guys. I'll have to look it up. But they did an interview with a podcast. It's on YouTube. They bring out other things that that the public didn't know. Like, for example, one of the things that Jim Schmidt said was that they were told that they would be kept in the loop, and oftentimes they found out about things in the case by learning it in the media, and that's terrible. But anyway, definitely watch the documentary. It is good. It shows us what we believed about Gabby, those of us who didn't know her, that she was a sweet, intelligent, good, hardworking, purposeful person who had set her mind to accomplish things, and that her life was snatched away from her by the person that said he loved her. If we can learn anything from this, I think it's the same kind of stuff that we can learn from Micah Miller. We really need to be able to recognize signs of DV, understand the signs of coercive control, and for ourselves and for our loved ones, be able to either help ourselves or help each other out of situations like that. There are situations, I'm sorry to really dig into this, but not only in our relationships, but like in our personal romantic relationships, but in our familial relationships. Maybe we have parents or some other family member who is manipulating us. It is okay to leave. It's okay to get out of that. Even in work, if you are working, this isn't true for everybody, but say it's just unhealthy for you to be working really, really hard at like a crazy fast-paced startup. It is okay to leave. Even if they would make you believe that it's not, right? So it's not just romantic relationships or familial relationships. It's also our relationships at work and in our the organizations that we belong to, the Rotaries or the Elks or the Moose or the Scouts or church groups or something like that. If you recognize that you're being manipulated, it is okay to leave. And Beth Meeks would tell us it is okay to be rude about it too. You don't have to stick to the etiquette of societal norms. Okay. Bree, awesome. Thank you very much for bringing that up. Bree found it. It's the Real Victims podcast with Nikki and Jim Schmidt. Check that out. It is great. Thanks for putting that in the live chat, Bree. That is the one. So check that out. Okay, guys, what are we doing tomorrow? I'm trying to remember what we're doing tomorrow. Let's, I know what we're doing tomorrow. We are going back over to the Judge Kevin Mullins case. We're going to be doing part 2 of the Ben Fields transcript. So definitely come back tomorrow at 7:30 Eastern. If you ever want to get a hold of me, you can do that on my website, gavinfish.com. It's also a place where you can get all sorts of documents, true crime information on cases that I have covered, cases that I deeply care about, including Gabby, including Micah, Maddie Soto. Oh, the Rebecca Byler case, by the way, guys, is scheduled for trial March 11th, and I will be covering that. And of course, all the other cases, David Elmquist, Shelby Thornburg, Ellen Greenberg. Yeah, so many cases that you guys can check out there. You can reach out to me by clicking this. I do get lots of correspondence. I go through all of it, not really in real time, but I do my best. And let's see, if you click on this little icon, that will take you to the fish tank over here on Facebook. We continue to grow, and we talk about true crime stuff. If you're on Facebook and that's your thing, I invite you to check that out. Last thing I will say, shameless self-promotion, definitely go over to crimecod.com, sign up for the newsletter. We're adding new content every single day. And so check that out. With that, guys, thank you for being here tonight. I bid you adieu until tomorrow night. Until then, take care. Thanks. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you liked what you saw, please consider subscribing. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below.